So what if I told you that everything you've been doing on Carnivore isn't enough? While you've been sitting there eating meat and eggs all day and not seeing the results that you want, I've been sharing the secret sauce that led to a 125-pound weight loss. Over the last year, I've tried absolutely everything I can in order to lose weight and get healthy. I've discovered one thing that moved the needle like nothing else, and that is OMAD fasting. Some of what I'm going to say today will go against the grain. These are the 10 brutally honest truths that I wish I knew before I started OMAD. And if you listen, really listen to what I'm going to say, it might be the breakthrough that you need. So have you started Carnivore and you've seen some improvements? Maybe inflammation is lower, your digestion is better, maybe you've got better energy, you're sleeping better, but the scales are just not shifting, and that's the thing that you did this diet for. When I started Carnivore back in January 2024, I had the exact same experience. Within a couple of days of starting Carnivore, I noticed that my face was clearer. I had more energy, less pain, less inflammation. If I got no weight loss whatsoever, I would have still been happy. But let's face it, I was extremely overweight and I wanted to sort that out. And I became frustrated that the weight was not coming off. If you've watched any of my videos, then you know my story. You know how I lost a few pounds and then I went up a few pounds and lost a few more, and I was yo-yoing up and down, and it became really frustrating. I'd lost 20 pounds and I thought, this is it, it's working now. Have you been in that situation where you've been on Carnivore for a while, you didn't see any weight loss, but you were patient, you stuck with it, and then eventually some pounds came off, but then you stalled and you couldn't get any more off? It's really frustrating, isn't it? I'd heard about OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. So the idea is that you fast for 23 hours and you eat in a 1 hour window. I'd heard about this, but I was like, that's too difficult. I'm not on board for that. No way. That's not happening. That's not happening. But when I got really frustrated and I'd given myself a goal of a year to lose my weight, I was like, anything's worth a go. I'm going to give it a go. So I just told myself I was going to do one 24-hour fast. I can still remember that very first fast. It felt so slow. I was so hungry. I couldn't get food off of my mind just because I knew that I couldn't eat. The hours and the minutes went by so slowly. When I got to about 17 hours, I felt a huge dopamine hit, like a high euphoria, like nothing I had felt before. And by the time 24 hours came around, I was so happy. My depression had completely lifted. Yes, and then I got on the scales and I'd lost a few pounds. So because I'd seen success with that first fast, I then started doing weekly 24-hour fasts for about a month or so. And then I fell out of it. And when I fell out of it, I started to feel sluggish and not myself again. And the weight started to stall, most importantly. And then I thought, I'm going to do OMAD just for 3 days, like a small challenge to myself. A 3-day OMAD. If I don't like it, 3 days is a short enough amount of time that I can forget about it and move on. But I did this 3-day challenge and I just didn't want to go back. I saw so many health benefits, things that we are going to get into in this video. But I just saw so much that there was just no going back after that. The most notable thing that I saw throughout that whole initial period was that the weight loss was coming down on a daily basis. So every day that I was doing OMAD fasting 23 hours and then 1 hour eating, I found that eating all of my food, all of my calories within a 1 hour window had very different effects to eating it spread over 3 meals. So as I touched on just now, when I first started, that very first fast was quite difficult. My body wasn't used to it. My brain certainly wasn't. I'd been eating in abundance all day, every day, and suddenly I was making my body go without food whatsoever. I was very, very determined to see it through to the end, because when I set myself a challenge, I don't like to let myself down in that way. If you do decide to go in with 23-1 like I have been doing, then you might find the first few days really difficult. Fasting is it's a skill that our body has to hone, and it gets used to over time. If you do want to start OMAD fasting and you find it too difficult in the beginning, don't be hard on yourself. There is going to be discomfort and you're not going to feel great initially, but once you get over that barrier, you will feel absolutely amazing. Once I was into the actual OMAD, daily OMAD fasting, it became easy. Initially, it was really difficult. And then after a few days, my body stopped expecting food when it wasn't going to get food. And I was able to free my mind up. The one thing that I think we can all agree on is we all get hungry, but often hunger is mistaken. It can be down to habits, it could be emotional dysregulation, and it can also be boredom. There are many, many reasons. Even thirst is another reason why you might feel hungry. When you start to eat OMAD, what it does is it releases that hunger. When I have a day off of OMAD, my hunger signals go crazy. I actually firmly believe that a lot of our hunger comes down to brain expectation. I think if we tell ourselves that we can eat, then we will want to eat, and our body will always tell us to eat. But if we tell our brains we're not eating no matter what, then the brain will accept it and the body will not give you the symptoms of hunger. When we feel hungry, we often think it's in our stomach, in our tummy area, but that's not where you feel real hunger. That's emotional hunger. Where you feel real physical hunger, it's in your solar plexus. Your solar plexus is just under your breastbone, and you will feel it, and you will feel it in your whole body. Emotional hunger is urgent, and I have to eat right now, and I have to fight my way to the kitchen to get food. But genuine hunger isn't like that. Genuine hunger is slow and steady. It increases but at a very steady, calm rate. So because I eat at 5 p.m. every day, from about 3 p.m. to 5 p.m, my body is ramping up to eat. My body knows that at 5 p.m. I am going to eat. And so by about 3 p.m, it starts giving me those hunger signals. And that goes back to me saying our brain's expecting food, therefore we get hungry. And on those rare occasions where I've done longer fasts, maybe 36 hours, I think my longest was 45 hours, I didn't actually get those hunger signals because I told myself we're not doing this today. And actually, while I was on those longer fasts, I did get hungry, real, genuine hunger, but it was so calm that I could override it quite easily. If you've done any kind of fasting, you will know exactly what I'm talking about here. If you are someone who is hungry a lot, you need to have a look at what's really going on. Are you thirsty? Dehydration can cause hunger. So the first thing I would recommend is that you have a drink of water. If that doesn't do it, maybe try water with electrolytes. Would you normally eat at this time? Is it a habit that you like to fulfill where you eat at this time? And is your brain expecting you to eat right now? And that is what is causing your hunger. If it's not, maybe it's boredom. Sometimes in that hour or two before my OMAD fasting, I will have to make myself be really busy, which boredom does breed hunger, and it's not hunger. It's just wanting to do something with your hands. Maybe it's emotional dysregulation. The last few weeks I've been quite emotionally dysregulated over a range of different things. One being that my computer broke and I didn't know if I was going to be able to do videos anymore. And I noticed around that time that my food, my hunger really increased and I couldn't understand it. I was on ChatGPT saying, why have I got food noise? I'm on Carnivore, I shouldn't have food noise. And it was emotional dysregulation. And I know that because I did manage to buy a new computer. And once I got that new computer, that food noise disappeared. So if it is emotional dysregulation, then you need to do some inner work to work out what exactly is the problem and why you are wanting to turn to food, and possibly look at incorporating other things instead of eating that is going to be more positive for your personal growth. When I first started, I was tending to have OMAD about midday, 1 to 2 p.m. And it was really too early in the day. What I found was it disrupted my sleep. If I was eating at midday and I wasn't eating until midday the next day, by the time I went to sleep, I'd been fasting for an excessive amount of time. And what would happen, in my theory, because I would wake up in the night and I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep, was I imagine that my blood sugar went really low. Then I moved my OMAD meal later and I tried a range of different times. I tried 3 p.m, 4 p.m, 5 p.m, 6 p.m, 7 p.m, 8 p.m. If I ate too late, that really disrupted my sleep. It disrupted my hormones as well. And I had more depression as well as broken sleep. But when I brought it forward to about 5 o'clock, then that kind of is the perfect timing for me. It's late enough that my blood sugar is not going to drop overnight, but it's early enough that it's not going to disrupt my hormones. I don't find OMAD easy every single day of the year, but I do it as much as possible because it brings so many results, and you're going to hear about some really amazing results in a bit. When you are choosing your sweet spot, don't just blindly copy what I'm doing. Think about what is convenient for you and what is going to be healthy for you, because there's no point sticking to a schedule that in a couple of weeks you're going to give up on. You want to do something that you can do for the long term. If you're liking this video so far and you are getting some value out of it, do hit subscribe, because I talk about all things weight loss and carnivore and a little bit of chronic illness as well. Leave me a comment letting me know, are you going to try OMAD or not? What are your fears? And if you have done it, what do you love about it? Because we can all learn from each other. So when I went from the SAD diet, that's the standard American diet or the standard English diet, to the carnivore diet, I saw huge benefits in all sorts of areas: my digestion, my skin, my energy. But when I went to OMAD, it was not only the weight loss, which we will discuss a little bit further into this video, but it was all those benefits that I had seen from being on carnivore were 10 times higher once I was carnivore and OMAD. I get a lot of comments on my channel saying how clear my skin is. Obviously, I wear makeup to be on camera, but my skin is so clear because of OMAD fasting. When I am not fasting, my skin, it still looks good, but it just doesn't look amazing. Now, full disclosure, I do a lot of skincare to look after my skin and to keep it looking as young looking as I can for as long as I can. And that includes lotions and potions. It also includes some supplements. So the supplements that I do consume for my skin are collagen and another supplement called fisetin, which has been super beneficial. I will leave affiliate links down below for those things. But even with just OMAD, and I started OMAD long before I was taking care of my skin, and I woke up one morning, I think it was after day 2 or 3 of OMAD, and my skin had a glow. It was like I had highlighter on up there. In terms of digestion, I have a condition called mast cell activation disorder, which means that when I consume things, a histamine reaction happens. I would get swelling of my lymph nodes around here. I would get swelling of the throat when I ate deli meats. I would get a dumping syndrome. So if I ate too much fat, then my whole front belly would go massive. I'd be in agony, and when it was at its worst, I would actually throw up and the pain would travel around the back. It was years ago that I would suffer greatly from the foods that I would eat. It wouldn't just be inflammation in my face or digestive problems. I would be completely and utterly fatigued with the ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, when I ate certain foods. Gluten and soya were the two things that were the worst, that could lay me up for days and days, where to the point I could not even walk. Once I was on carnivore, my life really turned around. In fact, something else that came with OMAD that I didn't necessarily get with carnivore was the mental clarity. This might be specific to me because I have a condition that is affected. It's autoimmune in some ways, because anything I consume, I have an ME, chronic fatigue syndrome reaction to that. So this might be to do with that, but you might benefit from this as well, especially if you have any kind of autoimmune issue. So when I was carnivore, although I was cutting out all the rubbish and I was just eating meat, I wasn't getting that mental clarity. I still had brain fog, which is a mainstay of my condition. But when I went on OMAD, and I noticed, I'd say within about 2 weeks of doing daily OMAD, was the mental clarity that I now have. My mind was clearer. It was a lot less foggy. I was able to think of names of things. I remember one time asking my son to post a letter to the telephone box, and he was like, the telephone box? Well, that didn't happen anymore once I was on OMAD. And it really opened me up to be able to do reading and watching films and many other things. If you're someone who is doing OMAD 1 meal a day and you're enjoying it, but you're finding it really hard going, maybe you are feeling lightheaded or dizzy, or maybe you are feeling like you can't quite make it to the 23-hour mark. What the issue probably is that you're not consuming enough fat. We have to reconcile in our minds that eating fat is okay. We have been told our whole life that we must eat low fat. This has been drilled into us from multiple sources all over our lives, and we have been programmed to believe that. So when we come to carnivore, and we do carnivore, and we're seeing some benefits of carnivore, but in order to see those benefits, we have to eat higher fat. We start to panic in our mind. We're like, is this okay? Am I causing myself more problems down the road? So getting over that hump is one thing. Some people come to me and they say, I want to do carnivore, but I'm going to do low fat carnivore. So I'm going to eat turkey and chicken and salmon and mackerel and what have you. I don't want to eat red meat. I don't want to eat the beef and the lamb. So before you were carnivore, you were living off of a glucose energy system. So your body would use glucose because you were consuming a lot of carbohydrates. So your body would consume glucose in order to get its energy, and any glucose it didn't need, it would store as fat. So when you consume carbs, your insulin goes up And then when your insulin is up, that will then block your body from burning fat. So your body, when it is in a glucose burning mode, it will store energy as fat, but it's very difficult to release that fat. So when you come over to the carnivore and you become what they call fat adapted, which just means that you have moved from a glucose fuel burning system to a fat burning system, that's what being fat adapted is. Your body is then turned into fat as its main source of fuel in order to burn. And because your insulin is not going up because you're not consuming carbohydrates, then you are burning fat that you're consuming instantly, but you're also able to burn your resources, your stores of fat, which is how I've lost 125 pounds over the last year and a bit. So in order to be carnivore, you have to be okay with eating high fat. If you do that, you will lose weight. If you don't want to eat high fat, you're going to struggle to lose weight. It will be possible, but it's going to be much slower. But what happens when you're carnivore and you're eating 2 or 3 meals, you're consuming a lot, because meat, highly saturated meat, is very calorific. It's very energy dense. And so you're likely to be storing fat rather than burning it off. So what happens is when you go to OMAD 1 meal a day, you're consuming all of your calories in that one window. So first of all, you're going to be consuming less calories than you would if you were grazing all day. So you'll have less fuel available, which will mean that you will burn your excess energy or your fat. But because you're consuming less and you are consuming it in one window, only in that window or shortly thereafter, your body is going to be burning that fuel that you have put in that day. For the rest of the time, for a good 16 hours, your body is going to be using the resources that you have in your fat cells. People always ask me about my macros and my ratios and what have you. I've never really paid too much attention, but lately I have been paying more attention, and I'm currently aiming for 70% fat. That's when I feel satiated enough that will keep me going for the next 23 hours. Autophagy is a process that what happens is your body collects up all the dead cells, all the toxic cells, all the defunct cells, the cells that are not serving you in any positive way, and it will collect them up into a singular cell, and then that cell will eat itself. It's putting the garbage out. It's getting rid of the cells that you do not need, that are making you feel dull, that are making you feel listless, that are making you look listless in your face, that are doing all sorts of oxidative damage to your body. When you go into autophagy, these processes can really rejuvenate your body at a cellular level. If you want to know deeper information about autophagy, I would recommend you watch Dr. Mindy Peltz. I think that's her name. She's a fasting channel where she gives lots of advice, mainly to women who fast, but she talks about autophagy quite a bit, so it is worth checking her videos out. But autophagy, there is some debate over when it kicks in. So when you're fasting, there's processes that you go through. 1 to 8 hours, your body is still processing the food that you have consumed. And then from 8 to 16 hours, you are in like a light fasting mode, which is really beneficial to you. For those that do 16-8, you might see benefits from that initial fasting window. But when you get to 16 to 24 hours, everything ramps up. It starts to take the fasting, your body starts to take the fasting a bit more seriously. And then after 24 hours, up to 72 hours, you can see some really, really impressive changes, such as stem cell rejuvenation. And stem cells are just cells that can go to any cell in the body that is damaged and repair it. So a couple of months ago, I came off of OMAD for a little while, and I was eating more regularly throughout the day. And what I found was my fatigue levels really increase. So because I have chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, what happens is after any kind of activity, even just a couple of hours, I would then be laid up the next day. While I wasn't doing OMAD, my recovery lasted between 3 and 7 days. When I am on OMAD, and I'm on strict OMAD, so 5 p.m. every day, and I do not deviate from that, after a few days, my recovery drops right back down. It's really, really important in terms of my health. It doesn't fix the post-exercise malaise, so I don't want to give you that impression if you do suffer from that yourself, but it certainly does reduce the impact. And it reduces the impact in a way that Carnivore didn't. When I wasn't OMAD, but I was still Carnivore, it wasn't doing anything. In fact, it was probably a little bit worse, if I'm completely honest, because it went up to 7 days, which I hadn't really seen before. The most exciting thing I found from OMAD, and it must just come down to cellular repair. So when maybe even autophagy. So when you are fasting, your body goes into an autophagy state, and you're getting rid of all those toxins from your body. So whenever I talk about OMAD, the responses I get are in one of two camps. So the first thing is, I'm going to give that a try. I haven't done it, it's worth a go, anything's worth a go, which I'm all for. If that's your attitude, I love you for it. The other thing is, I could never do OMAD. Oh my God, I could never go without food for that long. So we're going to address this in a little bit of detail, because I think it really does need a moment to sit with it, so you can understand that this is within your power to do it. It is a muscle that you need to build and hone and work up to. There is no getting around that. When you first do OMAD, you will find it very difficult. In fact, if you are not a carnivore, maybe you're keto, but you're interested in OMAD, then I would recommend that you go carnivore before you go OMAD, and that is going to make your process a lot easier. When you become carnivore, the food noise really does die down. The constant intrusive thoughts that you may get around food when you're eating carbohydrates, it either reduces or goes away completely on carnivore. So if you want to do OMAD, but you're worried that you've got a bit of food noise, or that you're going to miss food too much, or whatever, there are strategies you can put into place to ensure that that doesn't happen. Firstly, I'm going to say something I've said many times before: worrying about it is not going to fix it, is it? So you just have to get on and do the thing. Put your worries aside, and if you feel like you've got legitimate worries, maybe it might be food noise, it might be circumstances, so maybe you eat with family, or you have to take medication, or you're at work and you're expected to eat lunch, or you might have events that you need to go to. There are just a few things off the top of my head that I can think about. There's answers for all of that. It's really about planning ahead to ensure the success that you want to achieve. We can achieve anything we want. Honestly, I promise you, if you want it, you can achieve it. It's just a matter of planning, preparation and execution. Don't decide to start this when you've got a work event coming up, or an evening event coming up that involves lots of food. When you first try OMAD, you want to do it at a time where it's not going to impact you, where it doesn't matter if you don't eat at all. Then you're going to have less things standing in your way. For me personally, it was the food noise was the biggest thing. And once you've done OMAD, I would say the first day OMAD is the hardest. Second gets a little bit easier. By the third day, you are away with the fairies. And the consistency makes it easier. So once you're in your flow, you are going to feel liberated and free as a bird. You're going to have so much time to do other things that you were spending eating. And you're going to spend less money as well. I'm not even really touching on that in this video, but you will actually spend a lot less money by only eating once a day. So when we hear about OMAD eating 1 meal a day, we think, oh my God, that's not much food, especially as you know that you're eating within a 1 hour window. You're like, how am I going to eat my whole day's food in 1 hour? It seems so impossible. And then others might think that, like, because you're only eating 1 hour a day, you can eat as much as you want. You can stuff your face until you're really stuffed and you're almost sick. For me, OMAD doesn't mean eat everything. It means eat really well once a day. OMAD doesn't stop you from needing a good relationship with food. You still need a very good relationship with food, and actually you probably won't be successful if you cannot reconcile your relationship with food. You can overeat on OMAD, you can undereat on OMAD. You really have to find your own sweet spot. Our sweet spot is very individual to ourselves. You have to find what works for you. The real trick that I find to losing fast, consistent weight loss is, number one, to control your calories. I know not all carnivore creators or influencers recommend this. This is the hill I'm going to die on, because I do think you have to watch your calories. I see a lot of you are following the advice where eat as much carnivore as you want and your weight will come down. It doesn't happen. There's so many comments on every single video that I make saying my weight is stalling or I'm increasing weight. And that's because you're consuming too much energy. So, you know, we don't want to have to count calories. It's the last thing we want to have to do. But unfortunately, we do have to be mindful. I don't believe that you have to count every single calorie, but I think you need to be very mindful of the amount that you are consuming and really trial and adjust it. So eat a certain amount, weigh yourself the next day, see what the scale does, and then adjust what you're eating depending on what scale is showing you. If you want to go that road, if you're not in a hurry to lose weight, then you don't have to follow this advice. You can just eat carnivore and eat as much as you want, and probably over time you will lose weight. But I'm talking to the people who want it fast and consistent like I have had. The second thing is to eat high fat. I found at first my fat content wasn't that high and I was really struggling to make it through to the 23-hour mark. But once I increased my saturated fat, I was much happier in myself. I had more energy and I was able to get through the whole day till the next day. For me, I incorporated cheese, but I'm very mindful to incorporate it in a way that I'm aware of the calories that's involved in that. And that's how I've been able to consume cheese almost every day on this diet. And it's really helped me not only to have energy until the next day, but it keeps me regular as well. So when you first started watching this video, you may have come to this video thinking OMAD 1 meal a day was really extreme. So when you tell other people that this is what you're doing, they may also have that opinion. And when it's people that are close to us, people whose opinions matter to us, people we want validation from, we might be inclined to go towards what they think. They are talking from their own perspective. They've never done this. They don't know what they're talking about. It's an uneducated guess, really, about what is going on. It seems to be a free-for-all in our society that our health, our weight, our metabolic health is not just our own, it's up for grabs by anyone who can see you. We've got to stop acting like other people's opinions matter. They don't. We need to do what we need to do in order to get healthy. Before I become a carnivore, well, I just started being a carnivore, and I announced it on my other channel. I had a sewing channel and I announced it on there. I was getting all sorts of warnings not to do carnivore, that it would ruin my life. I didn't listen, and look at me today. So other people's opinions really don't matter. You have to focus on you. Ask yourself, do you want to people please other people, or do you want to get healthy? And I would recommend that you don't actually tell other people, because that just removes a layer of tension that you then don't have to deal with, and it's going to make you much more successful. You don't owe anyone an explanation. It's a bit like when you start a carnivore diet and people warn you against it, but when you were eating 6 packs of donuts every day, they weren't saying a word. But suddenly you want to eat red meat and all hell will break loose. It's the same with OMAD. You eat 3 meals a day, no one bats an eyelid, and then suddenly you're only eating 1 meal a day. And because they couldn't do it in their minds, they will project that onto you. Do what you need to do to see the results that you want. If you're not willing to do the work, you won't see the result. So if you have been stuck, frustrated, or even secretly thinking that carnivore just doesn't work for me, then perhaps OMAD is the next thing to add on to your carnivore journey. It might just be the thing that breaks you through and enables you to be successful. I certainly would not have lost the weight that I have lost if I did not incorporate OMAD. Carnivore on its own just wasn't enough for me to lose weight. And if you are one of those people on the carnivore who are not losing weight just on carnivore, check this video out next, because I talk to you exactly about that very problem, and I have all the answers that you need.